Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I hope you're all doing really well today. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about anxiety. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you will know that I struggle quite a lot with anxiety. Specifically for me, it's social anxiety, and it's something that I have to deal with every single day, and it's something that I'm starting to slowly overcome in my life. But with everything, it comes in waves, and right now I'm going through a good wave, but sometimes I can get really down and really struggle. And I want to share my experience of anxiety with you guys and things that have helped me. I'm not qualified, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a professional in this field. This is just literally advice from one normal person to another. I just feel like it's advice that I would have loved to have heard a few years ago, and I feel like it could be really valuable. So I've written down a few notes of just some things that I really want to cover, just in terms of talking about anxiety and ways to try and change your mindset. So I feel like a lot of the time with anxiety, when you watch YouTube videos, it's a lot of practical tips to reduce anxiety, which is fantastic. So things like meditation and essential oils. I've made one of these videos myself in the past, and honestly the tips in those videos do always really help. However, I feel like the change needs to come from within. You know, those exterior things can really help in day-to-day life when you're dealing with anxiety, but if you can stop the anxiety from happening or not being as severe in the first place, then surely that's so much better. So yeah, this is something that takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of work, and if you're dealing with anxiety or any kind of mental disorder, just go easy on yourself and realise that it's okay and that it's a process and that it's not just going to happen overnight and that you're completely normal and that it's just who you are. It's just a part of who you are, and it's just a part of your journey, and this is just something that you're going through to get you to where you need to be, and that in the end it's going to be okay, and that every single day that you wake up you are dealing with something that's really hard, and the fact that you overcome that every single day is amazing and something that you should really just give yourself a pat on the back for, honestly. You know, we're all going through our own personal things, and I think it's really important to acknowledge your own struggles and also your own triumphs, no matter how big or no matter how small. So the first thing that I've written down here is it's okay to be different, you know? So this is coming from the place for me with social anxiety of comparing yourself to others and wondering, why do I do like this, or I wish I was like this, or why can't I be more like them? And that comparison, that judgment of others onto you, and you're not judging the other person, you're kind of judging yourself for not being the same as them or not acting the same way as them. But actually, in the end of the day, like, if we were all the same, it would be such a boring world, and those little traits that make you you are who you are. You know, I'm quite an introverted person, and I've always been really embarrassed of that. I always felt like I should be more outgoing, like I should be louder, and I feel like maybe some people out there may be too loud. Maybe they've been told in their lives to quieten down or to not be so loud or just stop shouting, and those kind of things can really have an impact on your mental health and your well-being because you're being told to be different than who you are. And so if you are a quiet person, don't worry about it, just rock it. And if you feel uncomfortable, don't feel like you've got to always be outspoken and be loud. And if you are a loud person, don't feel like you've got to put yourself in a box, you know? You just do you. I think that's the most important thing we can all do, and something that we all need to learn to do more in life is to just be our authentic selves, no matter who we're around, no matter what our circumstances are, and to just love that about yourself. The more you can do that in public, the more confidence you will gain and the less anxious you will be in the long run. And you know, even if you feel anxious whilst you're being yourself, whilst you're out in public, that's going to lessen more and more over time, the more you do it. Yeah, it's just kind of, when you expose yourself to these things, it becomes less of a big deal every single time you do them. That's something that I've learned for myself, and although it can be very overwhelming, it's definitely a really good step forward. The next tip is a bit of a weird one, but I've just written down, life goes on. So it's quite a blunt statement, and definitely sometimes I need to be blunt with myself to shake myself out of it, to snap myself out of whatever I'm going through. A lot of the time the problems we have can feel like the end of the world, but when you put them into perspective, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if you were completely humiliated today because of something silly you did, or something you said to someone, or I can't believe this happened. At the end of the day, what does it matter? Does it really matter? And even if it has changed your life for the worst, I mean, it's part of life. And if you watched one of my last videos, you will understand that my thoughts on this is you're where you're supposed to be, so maybe you were supposed to turn your life upside down, you know? So when you can think that, and when you can think, does it matter? Is it the end of the world? I don't think so. it makes the anxiety a lot less because you're kind of putting it into perspective. A lot of the time with my anxiety, I find that I blow things way out of proportion and I fixate on that one thing and I forget that there's a whole world outside of the little cave bubble that I'm in, and that regardless of how anxious I am today, the world carries on. Everyone keeps going to work, you know, the birds keep singing, the trees keep swaying, the waves keep laughing, you know, everything just carries on, and regardless of how anxious you are, life keeps going, and so do you. And that's the most important thing to remember when you're going through a massive bout of anxiety, is just to step back and just remember that you are on a planet that's spinning around in space, and in the grand scheme of things, none of this really matters. What matters is that you're happy, you're looking after yourself, and you're not being so harsh on yourself. The next one kind of carries on from that, and it's, will this matter in a year's time? I mean, for the most part, I think the answer is no. I think, you know, for me, again, with anxiety, it can be something so small that triggers it, or it could just be the way you feel when you wake up in the morning. You just feel like you've got way too much to do, it's so stressful, and it's just like, oh my god, blah blah blah. But actually, when you put that into perspective again and you think, why am I anxious? Does this really matter? Is this really a big deal? Am I making it into a big deal? Am I adding things up, stacking things on top of each other to make this a bigger deal than it actually is? And if the answer is yes, then, you know, it's a really good just way of untangling those thoughts, I find, is to just say to yourself, does this really matter? Does stressing myself out today make any difference on tomorrow? Will I even remember how stressed I was this time next year? And I think most of the time the answer is no, you won't remember. And so why do we do it to ourselves? You know, why stress yourself out so much when really, in the grand scheme of things, it just doesn't matter, and it's kind of irrelevant, I guess. Although still relevant because it's part of your journey and it's part of you becoming who you are going to be, but you really can just take a step back and not be so harsh on yourself. And that kind of leads on to the next one, which is, what is this trying to teach me? Again, I mentioned this in a video. I think I did basically a whole video talking about this exact topic, so if this is one you want to learn more about, then I will link that video below. But something that I find really beneficial to lean more into is to try and turn a negative into a positive. So when you wake up, say, this is an example, you wake up today, you've got a to-do list as long as your arm, you feel really overwhelmed, you feel really flustered, you've got 5 appointments and you're not going to make it to all of them, or maybe you're running late for work. All of these things can cause so much stress, and if you struggle with anxiety, you're going to feel way more anxious than another person who does not struggle with anxiety, and it's completely rational, it's completely normal to feel overwhelmed. But instead of thinking, what do I have to do today? How many things do I have to do today? You should change it to, I'm so thankful for all of the things that I've got to do today. You know, like, change it to gratitude, change it to positivity, change it to being thankful for all of the things that you get to do today. Not what have I got to do, what do I get to do? Because you're alive and you're functioning, and that's amazing. We are so lucky. We are so lucky. What are the chances of us being alive right now, you know? When you realise that, you can just really take a step back and just think, wow, I'm here, I exist. Maybe your reality right now isn't perfect. Maybe it's not exactly what you want it to be. Maybe you are really struggling, and in which case, you know, my heart goes out to you. But we're alive, and we have the option to change our paths and our lives, and the steps that we take today can drastically change our lives tomorrow and the day after and for the future. And I think that's such an important message, and when you're dealing with anxiety, it's one that we often forget because we're so caught up in the future and worrying about stuff that happened in the future, stuff that happened in the past, that we forget to live in the present and we forget to be grateful for now and for the things that are happening right now in our lives. And yeah, definitely that is one of the things that I try and remind myself of a lot when I'm feeling so overwhelmed in life. So like I said, this is just kind of a chatty video, and I hope that some of these tips have helped you. One thing that I really want to add to this video that I've mentioned in the past when I've spoken about anxiety is a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. When I read this book, I was really struggling with anxiety and, you know, getting to the point where I was really not wanting to go to work anymore, and I was just feeling completely overwhelmed. When I read this book, it completely changed my life. It was amazing, and it literally happened overnight. There are some really good tools and tactics, and just, it's like thoughts that he's put on paper that you have in your brain, and if you can reflect on the things that he's saying, it can really change your outlook on life and the way you feel and how much passion and drive you've got to live the life that you are living. And yeah, just amazing. There are some fantastic quotes and some fantastic chapters in that book. So if you are struggling with anxiety, with depression, or with any other mental illness, I highly recommend reading that book because it's one of the biggest changes I've ever had. So there are a few quotes that I want to read to you from this book. So the first one is, "There is nothing more important to true growth than realizing that you are not the voice of the mind, you are the one hearing it." So this is one of the things that I never thought of before, is that you hear this voice in your head all the time, and you think that it's you thinking these thoughts, but actually upon reflection, when you sit and you do meditation and you sit and just be with yourself, you realize that this thing is just doing its own crazy little thing, and you're the one listening to it, so that you're not in control of it, but you can change those thoughts and you can change what you decide to put your attention on. And so when you're dealing with anxiety, a lot of the time it's ruminating thoughts that keep coming back around and around and around, and it can be something so small and so insignificant, but it can keep going around and it causes a great deal of stress. And so if you can redirect that thought pattern and you can change it to something positive, or you can find ways and tools to help you to redirect that thought, then it can help you to get out of that spiral and that conditioned thought pattern that you've gotten yourself into over the years. So yeah, just remember that you are listening to the voice inside your head, but you're not the voice inside your head, and you can definitely change that. And your brain is a tool, so you need to use it like one. And then the next one, I think I've put it on my phone. This one says, "But in the end, you can throw it all away and just make one basic underlying decision. Do you want to be happy, or do you not want to be happy? It's really that simple. Once you make that choice, the path through life becomes totally clear." So again, just this thought of, when we feel anxious, we just get ourselves into this constant cycle of thinking the same thought over and over and over, and all it does is makes us worse and worse and worse. And if you can take a step back and say to yourself, why am I doing this to myself? Do I deserve to be punished? Do I deserve to be worrying this much about something that I can't control? Then it's really not easy, but it's a lot easier to just say, I deserve to be happy. I deserve to love myself. And I don't deserve to be sat here worrying all night, getting a sleepless night. I deserve to rest. I deserve to love myself, and I deserve to be loved, and I deserve to live the life that I want to live. And I think if you can have compassion for yourself before everything else, then that's the most important thing. There's no point in having compassion for others and having compassion for other beings if you can't even have compassion for yourself. Self-love needs to come before all other types of love, and it's one of the hardest loves to find and to conjure. But once you kind of start making steps forward towards self-love, it becomes a whole lot easier, and it becomes more of a habit, and over time you just start to love yourself more. And I think that's one of the biggest things with anxiety, is just learning to love yourself and learning to just give yourself the credit you deserve, because you are trying so hard. And I think that's amazing. So I know there's a lot of you guys out there who watch my videos who do struggle with anxiety and with depression, and I just want to say, you are not alone. It's completely normal, and we're all in this together, and there is no reason to ever worry or compare yourself, especially to those on social media. We are all in this together, and we're all dealing with things. We all have our own stuff going on, and the most important thing to remember is that you're on your own journey and you're doing the best that you can. So I really hope that you enjoyed this little stream of consciousness. I know it was quite a blabber, but I hope there's some sustenance, and I hope that you find meaning in any of the things that I said. I would love to hear from you guys if you struggle with anxiety, or if you struggle with anxiety, what things you do, what thoughts you've had that have changed your life or changed that thought pattern. Because like I said, we go through ebbs and flows in life, and for some of you guys, you may be really dealing with anxiety right now, and others of you, maybe you've gone through a phase where you're kind of in a good place, and I would love to know how you got yourself there. And if you're going through a really dark time, then just let me know what things you're doing to help yourself. I think it's really nice to read the comments, especially on this type of video, because it's really nice to know you're not alone in certain thought patterns, in certain beliefs, and just ways of being. Mental health is a bit of a taboo topic, and a lot of the time people are worried to talk about it. So I am not scared to talk about this, and I'm happy to get my opinions out there and to make you feel less alone in this world. So I really hope this video helped. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. It really just helped to support this channel. please share it with anyone who you think it could help, and please subscribe if you're new. I do talk about a lot of random things, but the main things I love talking about are just loving yourself, you know, self-compassion, how to live an intentional life, which is to do with mindset. You know, it's a lot to do with mindset. I think once you change your mindset, you change your life. I love talking about minimalism and conscious living, all of that good stuff. So if you enjoy any of that, then please feel free to join my little tribe. It's a wonderful place to be, and I will see you all in the comments down below. I really enjoyed chatting to you guys, so have a great day and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.